Hey guys, this is Heroic Flamingo and welcome to my Guild Wars 2 class guide for the Ranger. In this video we're going to be looking at all of the different weapons that the Ranger can use, as well as the individual weapon skills. We'll also be looking at the healing, utility and elite skills that the Ranger can use, and then we'll be looking at the overall mechanics for the Ranger, including the pet system and things like that. And then we'll be looking at the individual core specializations for the Ranger, looking at each individual trait and seeing how they can make you even more powerful. So if you're interested in playing as a Ranger, or if you already do and you want to know more, sit tight and we'll get started right now. Okay, so before we go into the detail, I just want to give you a quick profession overview for the Ranger. So the Ranger is one of Guild Wars 2's adventurer professions, and therefore uses medium armour. Rangers rely on a keen eye, a steady hand and the power of nature itself. Unparalleled survivalists with traps, nature spirits and a stable of loyal pets at their command. Rangers can adapt to any situation. So yeah, the Ranger is a very versatile class. You have lots of ranged options in combat, of course, but then there are quite a few melee options as well, so you can mix that in with it as well. Obviously you have a pet at your disposal and you can actually switch between two pets in combat, so that's pretty unique. And you can do lots of things like lay traps, summon spirits and things like that, and we're going to be going through all of this in this video. The Ranger is known as a quite a straightforward class to learn. The mechanics aren't too difficult, so they're a pretty good class for beginners, so do bear that in mind. So the first thing I want to have a look at is the weapon skills. Alright, so I have here all of the weapons that the Ranger can use. I'm going to equip them one by one and then we're going to have a look at all of the weapon skills. So I'm going to start with the two-handed greatsword. So we'll look at each skill individually and then we'll demonstrate them as well to see what they do. So your number one skill on the greatsword is a chain ability. This means there's 3 abilities all in a row and you've got to let it play out to maximise your damage. So you've got slash, slice and an enduring swing. So the first one is slash your foe. You can hit up to 3 enemies. Your second one is slice your foe and also hits up to 3 enemies. And your third one, enduring swing. So slash at your foe and this attack restores endurance if it hits. So you're going to slash, slice and slash again, and on the third hit you're going to restore endurance, which is your bar right here just above your health, so that helps you dodge and stuff like that. All of these can hit up to 3 enemies and they're range 130, so you do have to be in melee range to use this. So let's quickly demonstrate this out on this poor little guy here. Slash, slice, slash, there you go. Bang, bang, and you can see on the third one there as well. Perfect. Lovely, so that's pretty cool there. So that's just your first basic auto attack there, and that's going to be a nice chain ability. Your second weapon skill on the greatsword is a maul. So this has an 8-second cooldown. This is attack your foe with the force of a bear. Your pet gains an attack of opportunity. So it's going to be a big attack. It's going to put vulnerability on the enemy, as you can see there. And also, attack of opportunity means that your pet has plus 25% damage on the next attack. You can hit up to 5 enemies with this, to be fair. So it is pretty good if you've got quite a few enemies around you. And it's range 220, so pretty much from a melee range. But you know, if there's an enemy just behind the one that you're fighting, it will hit them as well, which is pretty good. So this is going to be quite good if you're fighting a bunch of enemies from close range. Let's just try out what this does then. Bam. Alright, so nice animation there, puts vulnerability on the enemy as we said, and then also you know, it's going to hit multiple enemies at the same time as well, so that's pretty cool there. 8-second cooldown, not too bad as well actually. So your number 3 skill, it's got an 18-second cooldown. This is called swoop. Run and leap at your foe, hitting them and nearby foes. So it's going to hit up to 3 enemies. You can do it from range of thousands, so from really far away, but it's like to enter combat you're going to run and leap at your enemy and you're going to hit them and nearby enemies. So this is pretty cool. So while you're jumping as well, for half a second you're going to have evasion as well, so you won't be able to get hit, which is pretty cool. And it's going to do a bit of damage as well. So let's try this out here. So if I stand back here and I press my number 3, bam. As you can see, running, jump and slash all in one move, so that's really cool there, and you can use that to enter combat and then you can start using your other close range abilities as well. Alright, so your number 4 ability on the greatsword, counter attack. So this is a 30-second cooldown. So this is block incoming attacks. If an attack is blocked, counter attack kick can be used. So basically for 5 seconds you're going to be blocking the next attack. So if someone basically attacks you in that time and you block it, then you can use counter attack kick, which, as you can see below, is kick your foe, knocking them backwards, so it knocks them back, and it can hit up to 3 enemies. So that's pretty cool as well. So let's try this out. I mean, it's not going to work perfect because we can't get hit by these target columns. So I'll just demonstrate. So you'll use this, and if someone hits you in this couple of seconds there, then you'll be able to press your number 4 again and use the counter attack kick there. So you only really want to use that skill when you're being attacked, obviously. Otherwise, you're just going to stand there like that, look really stupid, and not be able to use your counter attack kick. So as soon as they hit you and you block it, then whack your number 4 and you'll knock the enemy back. So it's a pretty cool defensive ability there. Your number 5, so your final skill on the greatsword, is Hilt Bash. So this has a 25-second cooldown, and this is daze your foe with a Hilt Bash, stun them if you hit from behind, and refresh your maul ability. So as you can see, so you're going to daze your enemies, but you're going to stun them if you hit from behind, and then you're also going to refresh your maul ability as well, which is your number 2, which has got an 8-second cooldown. So you could use that and then use this. So that's pretty cool. So let's try this out. So let's try it out from behind him. So we should be stunning him. Let's use that. Bam, there you go. So stun, unable to do anything there, and then we can hit him with all of our other attacks there. So that's a pretty cool one there. Alright, so now we've got the longbow. So let's try this out. So this is obviously a nice ranged weapon, and what you're probably more accustomed to using with a ranger. Alright, so you've got your number 1 ability is long range shot. So this is shoot your foe from long range. The further the arrow flies, the more damage it does. Alright, so it's got 1500 range, so that's like max range. That's really far away, so I can probably stand all the way back here and still hit them. So the further away, the more damage. You can see it's got the figures there. So you want to be doing this initially from quite far away. And so if we move closer, you should see the damage is actually reducing, other than if it's a crit. But as we get further away, the base damage should be going up, as you can actually see that happening there. So that's pretty cool. So you want to do that from quite far away, and obviously when you're using a ranged weapon like this, you want to try and stay away from the enemies anyway, and still be able to damage them from a distance. So our number 2 ability on the longbow is Rapid Fire. So this is a 10-second cooldown, and this is fire multiple arrows at your foe. So as you can see, damage times 10, so it's going to shoot a bunch of arrows. It's going to put vulnerability on the enemy as well, and also 1500 range, so you can do it from all the way back here. So let's try this out now. So rapid fire, bam, 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 bam. It literally shoots 10 arrows, so a bunch there, bunch of damage. If you've got like high crit chance or something, that's going to be great, because a lot of those are going to be critical hits, so you can be doing a hell of a lot of damage just with that skill. And like I said, it puts vulnerability on them as well, so you know, that little extra thing as well, so that's really cool. Number 3, Hunter's Shot. So this has a 12-second cooldown. This is fire an arrow that grants you stealth when it hits an enemy, and your pet gains swiftness. So you're going to give swiftness to your pets, so they're going to move quicker, but you're going to make yourself invisible. So if you're taking a lot of damage and you want to disappear, hit your number 3, boom, invisible. So you can reposition yourself, you can get away, you know, get a bit of distance between you and the enemy and start using your ranged abilities and stuff like that. So, you know, you could really utilise that in your build, so that's a cool ability there. Your number 4 is Point Blank Shot. So this has a 15-second cooldown, and this is push back your foe with a point blank shot. The closer they are, the further it pushes them back. So this is what you want to use if you're using a longbow and someone comes close to you. It's got quite a long range, but obviously if you do it from quite long range, you're only going to knock them back a little bit, whereas if they're coming right up to you, doing it quite close, you're going to be able to knock them back quite a distance. So it's sort of like a defensive thing that you're going to use. It's obviously going to do a bit of damage, but mainly it's to make move enemies away from you. So if they come near you, press your number 4, bam, there you go. And that knocks them back really far, as you can see, because it's I was close to them, whereas if I'm quite far away, then the knockback's not going to be anywhere near as much. So our 5th and final ability on the longbow is Barrage. So this has a 20-second cooldown, and it's a ground targeted ability. So barrage the target area with a hail of arrows that cripple. Alright, so this is what you're going to want to use to slow your enemies down. It's got a radius of 360, and we need to place that down. So it's going to be able to hit quite a few enemies as long as they're not too far away from each other. It's going to do a decent amount of damage, but it's also going to cripple them as well, so reduce their movement speed. So as you can see, it's a pretty big area, so I can get a couple of these guys in there. So if you hold that down, and then release it. You have to stay still while you use this. If I move, it's going to interrupt the skill, and as you see, look, even after that, continues to go, doing loads of damage and crippling them constantly. So then you can start using the rest of your skills, and they're going to be really slow and not be able to get to you. So that's a really cool ability there as well. Right, so now we're going to have a look at the short bow. So this is you know, very similar to the long bow, but with a whole new set of skills. So that's pretty cool. So like, you've got a couple of different options if you want to go for a bow. So your number one skill on the short bow is crossfire. So this is fire an arrow that bleeds your target. Attacks are stronger from behind or from the side. So that's pretty cool. So you can be bleeding your target, doing damage over time just with your number one ability. And it should be doing more damage from the back and from the side. A lot of crits there. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's just your number one ability there, and you're already putting stacks of bleeding on the enemy, so you can be doing quite a lot of damage over time. Your number two ability is Poison Volley. So this has an 8-second cooldown, and this is fire a spread of 5 poison arrows. Poison lasts longer if you're flanking or behind the target. So there's a little pattern forming here. Obviously, your skills seem to be more effective whether you're doing it from the side or from behind, as opposed to from the front. So it might be quite good in a group situation, you know, if you can really get behind an enemy, or maybe even your pet could take aggro or something like that, and you could do it from behind or from the side, just to obviously increase the damage and the effects that you'll be putting on the enemies. So let's try this out. So it's going to be a spread of arrows, and it's going to be from 900 range, and it's going to put poison on the enemy. So let's try this out. Bam, there you go. So all the enemies in that area, so it's going to shoot 5 arrows in like a little spread. So all of them are going to be poisoned. So it's going to do some initial damage and then some damage over time. So that's cool. So your third one is Quick Shot. So this has a 12-second cooldown. And this is fire a quick shot in an evasive retreat. Gain swiftness. This can be used while retreating. Okay, so this is a, you know, a way to get away from your enemy, get a bit of a gap between you. So you're going to retreat while shooting. You're going to get swiftness, which means you're going to move faster as well. So you can use it, you know, if you want to get out of combat and not fight them. So let's give this a go. So when I use this, boom, you can see a couple of shots there. Knocks me backwards, so I'm able to get a bit of distance, and then also gives me swiftness. So if I want to make a runner, that would be my chance. Okay, so your number 4 ability for the short bow is Crippling Shot. So this has a 12-second cooldown. This is fire an arrow that cripples your target. If you are flanking or behind your target, immobilize them. Your pet's next 3 attacks inflict bleeding. So that's pretty cool. So it buffs your pet, making their attacks inflict bleeding, puts cripple on the enemy, and then also, you know, if you are doing it from the side or from behind, you're going to immobilize them as well. So that's cool. If I try it from behind here, just to see if we can immobilize them. So I use my number 4. Yeah, as you can see, immobilization, and then stacks of bleeding as well, which is cool. And then your as we said, your pet's attacks can be bleeding as well. So you can be stacking up those bleeding, making them do even, you know, taking even more damage over time. So that's cool. So your 5th and final weapon ability for the short bow is Concussion Shot. So this is a 25-second cooldown, so that's pretty long, but it's daze your foe with an arrow and stun them if you hit from behind or from the side. Alright, so once again, range 900, so you can do it from long range, and you know, it's going to have that extra effect. So instead of dazing them, it's going to stun them if you're doing it from the side or from behind. So that's pretty cool. So if I try it from here, I should put a daze on them. That's pretty awesome. So that's going to stop them from being able to do anything there. And then obviously even better, you're going to stun them if you do it from the side or from behind. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the main hand axe. So this is quite interesting because this is actually a ranged weapon, the main hand axe on the ranger here. So to be honest, it's quite unique in that respect. They're all 900 range, so you can do it from pretty far away. So that's cool. So your number 1 ability is Ricochet. So bounce your axe between multiple foes, gaining might for each enemy struck. So you can hit up to 2 enemies, it's going to bounce between them, and it's going to give you might as well. So as you can see there, bouncing straight over there, stacking might on top of me, so I'm doing even more damage, and then, you know, spreading damage around some enemies there. So it does have quite a decent range there, going between them, and like I said, it's a melee weapon, but you're throwing it, so it turns into a ranged weapon, which is cool. Your number 2 ability is Split Blade. This has an 8-second cooldown. This is throw a spread pattern of 5 whirling axes that bleeds foes. Okay, so let's have a little look here. So we're going to throw 5 axes all next to each other, so it's similar to that poison one on the short bow, but it's just going to bleed enemies. So it can targets per axe. You can hit up to 5 enemies per axe. That seems like a lot, but it depends how many enemies you've got there. You probably don't like to have too many, but if they're all bunched together, use this and boom, there you go. So you can see that's going to fly out there, and it's going to hit a bunch of enemies that are standing in the way, and it's going to put bleeding on all of them to add a little bit of damage over time as well. So your third and final ability on the main hand axe is Winter's Bite. So this has a 10-second cooldown. This is throw an axe to chill the area around your foe. Your pet's next attack inflicts weakness. So you're buffing your pet there to give them weakness on their next attack, and you're going to chill the area around your foe, which is going to reduce their movement speed and their skill recharge rate. And by the looks of it, it also puts a bit of bleeding on the enemy as well, as all of these seem to do. So let's try that out. There you go. So as you can see, you got chilled, you got bleeding, and then also if your pet hits them, they're going to put weakness on them as well. And that has a 240 blast radius, and it can hit up to 5 enemies. Right. So now we've got the main hand sword. So this is a melee weapon, so range 130 on all the attacks. So you've got to be up close and personal for this one. So your number 1 ability is another chain ability. So slash, crippling thrust, and precision swipe. So slash your foe, stab your foe, crippling them for a short time, and then deliver a blow to your foe, and your pet gains might for each foe struck. So you're going to hit them initially, and then you're going to hit them again and cripple them, so slow them down. And then with the third one, you're going to buff your pet, and then they're going to gain might for every foe struck. And all of these attacks can hit up to 3 enemies, so that's pretty cool there. So let's see how this chain. No, it's not got enough health there. Let's see how that plays out. So bam, cripple, and then the big one, big swing there, which you're going to be buffing your pet with that third one as well. So that's pretty cool, making your pet a little bit more powerful as well. So your number 2 ability here is Monarch's Leap. So leap to your target and cripple them. Can be followed up with Serpent Strike. Okay. So Serpent Strike. So you're going to leap at them, do a bit of damage. So you can do it from mid-range. So you're going to jump to them from mid-range, cripple them, and then you can use Serpent Strike, which do an evasive roll around your target, striking and poisoning them. Let's try out both of these now. So if I use the first one, jump towards them, and then the second one, nice. That's a really cool one there. So use the first one and then the second one, because the second one's going to roll around them, hitting them again, putting a bit of poison on them. So that's a cool skill there. Little combo. Let's try it one more time. Bam. There you go. So just double smack that to get maximum damage. Alright, so your number 3 skill on the sword is Hornet Stick. So this is a 15-second cooldown. So stab your foe, then evade backward. Recharge Monarch's Leap if this attack hits. So that's Monarch's Leap's that one. So you're going to stab them, move backwards, and then you're going to recharge it. So this has to be done from close range, and it makes you evade for half a second. So if I try this out, what it's saying is I can use my Monarch's Leap, and then my number 3 is going to recharge it. So let's try on this guy here. So if I go that, and then that. So then I use my number 3, bam, you can see that brings it back, and then bam, you can jump back in again and hit him with that. So it's sort of like a double helping there of your number 2, but your number 3 is going to evade backwards, so you can use it to get away, which is pretty cool, but then also straight away you can jump back in because your Monarch's Leap will have recharged. So that's a little cool combination there between your skills. Okay, so now I want to have a look at the offhand axe. So this is another ranged axe one, at least the first ability is here. So this is Path of Scars, and has a 15-second cooldown. This is a ground target ability, and this is throw your axe so that it returns to you, striking foes each way. So it pulls enemies towards you as well, so it can be used as a gap closer, does a decent amount of damage, and initially can be used from 1200 range. So you place it down, it's only got a small little target there, so you want to place it right on the enemy, and it's going to go bang, and it's going to hit them on the way back, pulling them towards you as well. So that's pretty cool there. So it's going to be striking foes each way, so it can hit multiple enemies as well. So that's a nice one there. And your second ability here on the offhand axe is Whirling Defense. So this has a 25-second cooldown. This is spin your axes around you to attack nearby foes. So this is quite short range. This has got a radius of 180 around you, lasts for 5 seconds and hits up to 5 enemies. You're also going to give yourself retaliation, and you're going to put vulnerability on the enemy, so that's pretty cool. So let's try this out here. So if I go up to this guy here, use that, bam, there you go. So you've got to let that channel, but it's going to hit everyone around you, I think 12 times. You can see it's stuck vulnerability on the enemy. It gives you retaliation as well, so has quite a few cool effects there, so that's a powerful ability. Okay, so now we've equipped the offhand dagger. So this is a, well, at least the first skill is from range 250, so relatively close range, and it's called Stalker's Strike, and it's got a 15-second cooldown. So stab and poison your foe while evading attacks. This attack deals increased damage and poison against movement impaired foes. So you want to use this after you're using like a cripple ability, because it's going to have additional poison, as you can see there. So you're also going to evade for a second and a quarter as well, which is cool. So you're going to stop people from being able to attack you, but you're going to be sticking poison on the enemy while evading. So let's try this out. So boom, little spin attack there, sticking poison on there, and like I said, while you're doing it they can't hit you as well, so that's a pretty cool ability there. And your second ability here on the offhand dagger is Crippling Talon, which has only a 1 second cooldown. So throw a dagger to bleed and cripple your foe. So this is long range, so 1200 range, but you're sticking cripple and bleed on the enemy there. This is a ammo skill actually, so although it only has a 1 second cooldown to actually come back, it's got a little 2 there, and you can use it twice, and each count is going to have a 15-second recharge. Let me just demonstrate that. So boom, cripple, bleeding, let's see, it's come back, and you see this little bar filling up around it. That's the charge coming back. So if I wait for that to come back, I can use that again. But then also, what's going to happen is if I use it twice, boom, boom, there you go, you've got to wait for that to come back, if you see what I mean there. So it's a 15-second count recharge there. Alright, so next up is the torch. So the first torch ability is Throw Torch, the basic name there. So this has a 15-second cooldown, and it's got a range of 1200. So throw your torch and burn your foes in an area. So it's got a radius of 180, and everyone in there is going to set them on fire and do burning damage over time, and you can hit up to 5 enemies. So let's try this out. Boom, there you go. So set him on fire there. It's going to set fire. Everyone in that area is going to have the same effect on them. So it's pretty cool there to throw that into a crowd of enemies. And then your second ability here on the torch is Bonfire. This has a 25-second cooldown, and it sets a fire around you, damaging and burning foes. So this is on a radius of 240 around you, lasts for 8 seconds, and sets enemies on fire. Can hit up to 5 enemies as well. Let's try this one out. As you can see, throws that ring down on the ground, and anyone within that ring is going to be set on fire. So that's a pretty effective ability there. If you've got a bunch of enemies all bunched up together, you lay that down on the floor, and that's going to set them all on fire. Okay, so the final weapon that we're going to have a look at for the Ranger is the offhand Warhorn. So our first ability here is Hunter's Call, and has a 20-second cooldown. So call hawks to swarm your foe. So this is going to do a bunch of damage, and it's going to stick vulnerability on the enemy as well. You can do it from a range 1200, so it's a nice long range skill that I can use to cool down on an enemy there. So if I target an enemy, for everyone that's not been attacked, use my number 4. There you go, so it's going to, a swarm of enemies there, a swarm of little crows there, and it's going to hit them 16 times, and it's going to put a ton of vulnerability on the enemy, meaning they're going to take more damage as well. So your final ability here is Call of the Wild. This is a 30-second cooldown, and it's grant fury, might, and swiftness to yourself and nearby allies. Your pets next to your attacks become unblockable. So this is a nice little buff here. So you're going to blow your Warhorn, and you're going to buff enemies, buff your you and your allies in a radius of 900 around you. So up to 5 allies. But fury, might, swiftness, and obviously your pets next to your attacks become unblockable as well. So a nice buff for your pet as well. So that's cool. So just to demonstrate what that looks like. There you go, nice little thing there. So you've got all these buffs on you, so are all your allies. So it's good in the group situation there if you're doing more of like a support role. So that's a nice one there. So that's actually all of the weapon skills. So the next thing I want to have a look at are the Ranger's healing skills. Okay, so next thing I'm going to have a look at are the Ranger's healing skills. So that's our number 6 skill here, and the first one we're going to look at is we heal as one. So this has a 30-second cooldown. This is heal yourself and your pet. You each gain copies of the other's boons. So you're going to put a decent heal on yourself, you're going to be healing your pet as well, which is useful, and you're going to be getting copies. So if one of you've got boons on you, you're going to be copying it over, so that's going to help as well. So let's just see what that looks like. Boom, there you go. So that's going to be a nice heal there for you and your pet. So if you focus quite a lot on using the pet and you want to keep them alive, then this is a pretty good healing skill for you. Okay, so the next healing skill we're going to look at is Troll Unguent. So this has a 30-second cooldown. This is you and your pet regenerate health over time. So this is more of a spread out option. So be careful with this one, because obviously if you're taking a lot of damage and you need a quick heal, this isn't the skill for you, because this is going to take a bit of time. But to be fair, it lasts for 8 seconds and heals you for 1062 per second. So if it's healing over time you're looking for, then this is an effective skill. So let's just see what this looks like here. So bam, there you go. So that's going to be you and your pet regenerating health over time. So 8 seconds of healing for you and your pet. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so the next healing skill we're going to have a look at is Healing Spring. This has a 30-second cooldown and it's a trap skill. So it heals you and your pet. Place a trap that grants regeneration and cures conditions on allies. So you're going to initially heal yourself and your pet, so you are going to get that. But you're also going to place the trap down, and when that's triggered by one of your allies, then it's going to stick a nice regen buff on there and cure some conditions. So this is pretty good in a group situation. So there you go, big heal for you and your pet, and then you place that down, and look, once that's triggered, everyone, all your allies in this area are going to have some nice buffs on them as well. So that's a cool ability there to use in a group situation. Okay, so the final healing skill is Water Spirit, and this is our first look at one of the spirit abilities. So we're going to summon the spirit for this one. It's got a 20-second cooldown, and it's summon a water spirit that causes nearby allies to heal when attacking. Spirits lose health when granting boons to allies and die if the summoner moves out of range. So it's got a 600 radius, and it can affect up to 10 allies. So as you can see, heal yourself upon striking a foe. So you're going to have a little bit of initial healing. So let's place this down there, summon this thing. There you go, you're going to summon that, and then while it's active you're going to be healing yourself when you're hitting an enemy. And when you've got that active there, you can also use Aqua Surge, which is the water spirit teleports to your location and heals you and nearby allies. So if I'm standing over here and I use that, bam, you're going to teleport it over to you, and it's going to have an extra heal on you and nearby allies. So that's pretty cool there as well. And that Aqua Surge also has a 20-second cooldown, so bear that in mind. And as it's curing conditions and stuff like that, and buffing nearby allies, it does lose its health over time. And obviously if you move out the radius as well, I think if you go further enough away, then it's going to die as well. And then eventually, as you see, the spirit dies, and you have to wait for the cooldown to be able to summon that again. So that's all of the healing skills. So the next thing I want to have a look at are the Ranger's utility skills. Okay, so the next things I want to look at are the Ranger's utility skills. So I've equipped a pet here just because some of them interact with the pet, so I thought we'd demonstrate that. So these are all of the utility skills you've got at your disposal. I'll show them off one by one, and we'll have a look at what they do. So I'm going to choose the first 3 abilities here, and we'll try these out. Okay, so your first one is Sick'em. So this is a command skill, so obviously interacts with your pet. It's got a 35-second cooldown, and it's your pet rushes at your foe, revealing them and dealing increased damage. So if an enemy is stealthed, it reveals them, and it means that for 10 seconds they have extra 40% damage and 40% movement speed. So let's just demonstrate that on this guy. So if I use that, there you go, it's going to run at him, and it means that if they were stealthed, it's going to reveal them, but then also it's doing more damage and more, increased damage and more movement speed as well, so they can run at them nice and quick. So your second one here is Protect Me. So this is a 40-second cooldown. This is gain protection and barrier while breaking allies out of stun. So you're going to get a barrier on top of your health, you're going to gain protection, and you're also going to take your allies out of stun as well from a radius of 600 around you. So let's try that out. So there you go. So I've got a barrier on top of my health there. I've got a bit of protection on myself, and then also any allies around you that are going to be breaking out of stun as well. So that's a cool one. And your next one here is guard. So this is a 30-second cooldown, and it's order your pet to guard nearby allies. Your pet takes damage on behalf of those allies. Gain might when your pet receives damage. So it's sort of a couple of things that link in here. So you're going to be guarding nearby allies, so it's going to take damage reduction on your allies, and it's going to take that damage over to your pet instead. And when your pet takes that damage, you're also going to get might on top of you there, so it's going to be buffing you at the same time. So let's just have a little look at this. So obviously that's going to be on there, so they've got guard on them there, and obviously they're going to be buffing us as they take damage. So obviously it's not taking damage at the moment, but that's a pretty cool skill that you could be having there. So the next 3 skills that we've got at our disposal. Alright, so you've got search and rescue. And this has a 60-second cooldown. So your pet teleports a downed ally within range of you and begins reviving them. Grant regeneration to nearby allies. So your pet's gonna go to a nearby ally and start reviving them, and it's also gonna give regen to all nearby allies as well. So that's a pretty cool one there. So obviously, as you can see, me and all nearby ones have got allies. Obviously, there's no ally to get up at the moment, but it will start reviving an ally when they're down. So that's pretty cool there. So your next one here. So this is a spirit ability. This is Sun Spirit. This has a 20-second cooldown. You summon a Sun Spirit that causes allies to inflict burning when hitting foes. So if I try that out, if I stick that down, so that's going to, see when I hit an enemy, it's going to, so if I stick a weapon on real quick, when I hit an enemy, bam, as you can see, it's setting them on fire as well, and that's as a result of my Sun Spirit. So I can also use Solar Flare, which is your Sun Spirit teleports to your location and releases the brilliance of the sun or nearby foes. So let's have a look at that. Bam, there you go, and that's going to be, as you can see, burning and blindness to enemies as I teleport them. But that also has a 20-second cooldown, so bear that in mind. And then you've got another spirit ability here, and that's Stone Spirit. So this is summon a Stone Spirit that causes nearby allies to gain protection on hit. So spirits lose health when grant boons to allies and die if the summoner moves out of range. So you're going to be applying protection upon striking a foe, whenever any of your allies hit a foe, and then you can use Quicksand, which is your Stone Spirit teleports to your location and softens the earth around it, immobilizing and crippling foes. So if I do that, so you're going to gain protection on hit, so when I hit an enemy there, it's going to put protection on me, and if I use my active ability there, it's going to teleport it to me, and it's going to be using immobilize and cripple on foes as well. So it's got a couple of effects there, so that's a pretty cool one as well. Okay, so I've got a few more utility skills here. So I've got a couple more spirits. So I've got Frost Spirit. So summon a Frost Spirit that increases damage for nearby allies. So it's going to mean that an extra 5% damage for all of nearby allies. It affects up to 10 allies there, so let's give that a go. And it's also got an activate ability, which is Cold Snap. So your Frost Spirit teleports to your location and releases a freezing blast of Arctic air to chill nearby foes. So it's going to put chilled effect on all nearby enemies when you use the activate ability as well. So let's put that down. So that's going to be increases damage. So as you can see, we've got might on us now, and if I use the activate ability here, it's going to teleport it to me, and it's going to, there you go, so it's going to chill the area, so all enemies in the area are going to have that chilled effect on them as well. So that's pretty cool. So your final spirit ability here is Storm Spirit. So summon a Storm Spirit that causes nearby allies to apply vulnerability when attacking. So let's try that out. Summon that. You see, as I attack, you're sticking vulnerability on the enemy there, so that's cool. And then the activate ability is Cool Lightning. So your Storm Spirit teleports to your location and generates a powerful blast of electricity. So that's going to do damage and daze enemies. So let's have a look. So there you go. Damage everyone in the area and daze them as well. So that's a cool little another spirit there. So next up we've got survival abilities, and this is Sharpening Stone. So this is a 30-second cooldown. So bleed foes with your next few attacks. So as you can see, stick that on there, and I've now got that buff. So when I attack an enemy, it's going to stick bleeding, stacks of bleeding on the enemy. Show you that there. There you go. So it's stacking up my bleeding while I've got that, and then obviously once you've used all of those, I think it's got 10 charges or 30 seconds, whichever runs out first. Each attack's going to stick bleeding on the enemy, so you can hit them up to 10 times and put 10 stacks of bleeding on. So that's a pretty cool ability there as well. Alright, so I've got a few more utility skills here. So we've got lightning reflexes. So this is a 30-second cooldown. So this is evade back with a crack of lightning, dealing damage and gaining vigor. So this is going to get us out of combat in terms of it's going to move us away from the enemy so that we can use ranged weapons. And it's going to deal damage, and also it's going to give you vigor as well, which is going to increase your endurance regeneration, which means you'll be able to dodge even more. Let's just try that out. So say you might be using a melee weapon, but you might want to swap to a ranged weapon. So you can use this, jump back, weapon swap to your ranged weapon, and then you can start using that as well, which is pretty cool. Your next one here is muddy terrain. So this is a 25-second cooldown and is a ground target ability. So use mud to cripple, slow, and immobilize foes. So you can do this from long range, but it places in a radius of 240, and it lasts for 10 seconds, and it can target up to 5 enemies. It's basically going to slow down all enemies in the area. So you stick that down there. You can see it immobilizes them and cripples them as well. So it's going to slow them down, so you could use that and then continue to use some ranged abilities and stop the enemies from coming towards you. So it'd be pretty effective against a melee opponent. So the next one here is Quickening Zephyr. So this has a 40-second cooldown, and it's you and your pet gain swiftness and super speed. Also, it breaks stun. So if you're stunned, you can use it, but also quickness for you, so your skills and actions are faster, and then super speed for your pet. Well, both of your pet and yourself get quickness and super speed. So bam, there you go. So you can see quickness and super speed on you, and the pet's got it as well. So he's zooming about all over the place. So that's another pretty cool utility skill there. Alright, so I've got a few more utility skills here, and these are signet skills. So signet skills are skills that have both a passive effect and an active ability. So I'll show that now. So this one is Signet of Renewal. So this is a 50-second cooldown. So the passive, that means that, as you can see, just by having these on my bar, we have the passive effect on us, affecting us at all times. So this is you and your pet recover health. So basically, us and our pet are going to have constant health regeneration, which is pretty cool. So it's going to help you stay alive, so it's just going to make you even harder to kill there. But if you want to activate it for a more powerful effect, then you can press that button, so actually click on your number 7 skill there, and it's going to grant resistance to your pet. It pulls conditions from nearby allies to itself. So it's going to give resistance, so conditions currently on are ineffective, so it means conditions won't affect it, but at the same time it can transfer conditions from nearby allies to itself, so it's sort of sacrificing itself a little bit there. It also breaks stun as well. But do bear in mind that with all signets, while this is on its 50-second recharge, you won't actually have that passive ability on it, so you're going to want to maybe think twice about using the active ability unless you actually need it, because you won't have your passive for the next 50 seconds. So just to show you what that looks like when we use it, bam, there you go. So you can grant resistance, as you can see. It's going to have resistance on him, and it's going to be moving conditions from nearby allies to himself. So our next one here is Signet of the Hunt. So this is a 40-second cooldown, and the passive is that it grants 25% increased movement speed to you and your pet, as you can see. So as long as you have this on your bar, you're going to be moving 25. You and your pet moving 25% faster, which is a really cool one to have in your bar there. If you're using it as like maybe in an open world build, so you can get around quicker. And if you do want to activate it, it's you and your pet's attacks become unblockable. So that means your next attacks are unblockable for 6 seconds. So if an enemy's using block a lot, it might be quite cool to activate that, and then they're not going to be able to block your next few attacks. So that's a nice one there. And then your third signet here is Signet of Stone. So this is a 40-second cooldown, and the passive is it improves toughness for you and your pet. So that basically makes your armor higher, so you and your pet can take more damage, so that's cool. And the active ability is that you and your pet take no damage from attacks, and you and your pet are still susceptible to conditions and control effects, and that lasts for 3 seconds. So that's, if you're taking a lot of damage and you need to stop that, then you can use that, but do bear in mind that you're going to lose your toughness bonus for 40 seconds there, which is part of your passive. So you can see there, use Signet Stone there. You've lost your passive, yeah, but you've got that active ability there. You're not going to take any damage for a good few seconds there, so that's a nice one. So here we can swap over to the next ones, which are the last Signet, and then a couple more skills there. So your last Signet here is Signet of the Wild. So this has a 40-second cooldown. This is the passive is it increases the ferocity of you and your pet. So your ferocity is going to be higher, and that means you're going to do more critical damage. And then if you want to activate it, you're going to tap into the land to root foes around you. So the activate ability is actually going to immobilize enemies for a second. So it's going to be up to 5 enemies near the target. So if I try that out, bam, there you go, you're going to lose your passive. Oh, sorry, it's actually near you, so it's going to be enemies near you. So what you want to do there is you want to do that if you're in close melee range, because everyone around you is going to be rooted to the spot, and then maybe you could roll back and switch to a ranged weapon and hit them with a few of those while they're immobilized, so that's pretty cool. The next one here is Spike Trap. So this has a 20-second cooldown. It's set a trap that bleeds and launches foes. So when enemies run onto this trap and they hit up to 5 enemies, it's going to be it's going to bleed them and launch them as well. So let me try this out. So if I lay this down on this guy here, it's going to trigger that trap. Bam, there you go. Launches him down there, and it's also going to bleed him as well. So that's pretty cool there. A couple of effects. So these are trap abilities we're looking at now. So these are actually, you place them down. I'll show them on this guy. And when they walk into the area, it triggers them. So this is Flame Trap. This is a 15-second cooldown, so set a trap that burns foes. So let's try this out now. If I lay that down, see when he walks into it, there you go, he's triggered it, and all enemies that walk into the area now for a few seconds are going to be set on fire, doing a bit of damage over time. Okay, so I've got the final 2 elite skills here, and they're your last 2 trap abilities. So the first one here, you've got Viper's Nest. So this has a 20-second cooldown, and it's set a trap that pulses poison on foes when triggered. So same as the others really, you place it down, it targets up to 5 enemies in a radius of 240. So let's try it out on this guy if he's going to come round. So lay that down, so when he walks into the area, boom, there you go. So him and all the other enemies that come into that area are going to have poison put on them. So you can see, nice bit of damage over time, and now he's dead, which is pretty cool. And here our final utility skill is Frost Trap. So this has a 30-second cooldown. This is set a trap that chills foes. This is going to slow enemies' movement speed and recharge rate. So same as always, effect radius 240 and hit up to 5 targets. So let's try this out on this guy coming around now. So you should see him slow down. There you go. So you can use that, and then it stops them from coming at you. It can affect 5 enemies in the area, and you can start using all your abilities. See, for quite a while afterwards they've got chilled on them there, so if you've got some melee enemies you can place that down, you can pull them with a ranged ability, and then when they run through that trap they're going to be really slowed down, and while they're doing that you can rain a bunch of ranged abilities down on them, and then they'll probably be dead before they even get to you. So that's a pretty cool tactic you could use there. So that is all of the utility skills for the Ranger there. So the next thing I want to have a look at are the Ranger's elite skills. Okay, so the next thing I want to have a look at are the Ranger's elite skills. So if we look down here, we've got a few elite skills to choose from. So the first one is a command ability. So Strength of the Pack. So this has a 75-second cooldown. So it's Rampage with your pet, gaining stability, fury and swiftness. You and your pet also grant might to each other when you attack. It's going to last for 10 seconds, and you're going to have a bunch of buffs on you, so you and your pet are going to be more powerful. So just basically making you and your pet more powerful for 10 seconds, and when you're attacking as well, you're going to be granting might to each other, which is going to make you do even more damage. So this is a pretty cool one here if you want to buff you and your pet and just do a bit more damage in combat. Let's try this out. So if I activate that, boom, there you go, 10 seconds, you see we've got the effect there. So us and our pet are doing that. So we've got all these buffs on us. See, when the pet attacks, it's giving us might. When we attack, we're giving the pet might. So it's a pretty cool utility skill. Sorry, it's a pretty cool elite skill there, which is going to give you 10 seconds of being like really powerful. Alright, so the next elite skill we're going to have a look at is Entangle. So this is a survival skill with a 60-second cooldown. So entangle foes around you with vines. Entangled foes bleed and are immobilized until the vines are destroyed. So this is in a radius of 600 around you, so it's pretty good. So anyone within a mid-range of you, you don't have to be right up close to them. They're going to be entangled in vines. It's going to stick Immobilize on them for 2 seconds so they can't move at all. And it's also going to bleed them for 8 seconds, which is nice. As we can see, number of targets, it can hit up to 5 targets there. So let's have a little look, see what this looks like. So if I stand here, it should probably be able to hit all of these guys. So, bam. Alright, there you go, as you can see. But you can see actually, because the immobilize does last 2 seconds, I was right, sorry, but actually you have got to bear in mind that it does keep coming back. So for 5 seconds in total, it's actually going to have those effects. And the bleeding lasts for a little bit longer afterwards as well. So that's a pretty cool effect there, which is sort of like doing a decent amount of damage and sort of immobilizing everyone around you. So you could maybe use that and then use, like maybe with your longbow, you can use the one that rains arrows down on them in an area so they're being held still. So you could really link it up with some of your other skills to really improve your build. So that's a cool one. Okay, so our third and final elite skill is an elite spirit skill. So this should be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing this. So this is Spirit of Nature. It has a 120 second cooldown, so do bear that in mind. It's going to take a couple of minutes to come back. But it's summon a spirit that heals allies. Command the spirit to revive and cure conditions on nearby allies. Okay, so it's going to be healing allies, so within a radius of 600 around it, so that's pretty cool there. So that's going to be healing enemies. It's going to health loss per interval is 3%, and it's every 1 second. So it's going to lose 3% of health every 1 second. So eventually, obviously, it will die. But it's going to be healing all allies around it, so that's really cool. And then the activate of it, which has got a 40 second cooldown, is your Spirit of Nature teleports to your location and then sacrifices its health to revive and cure the conditions of nearby downed allies. So it's pretty cool there in a group situation if you want to help revive them, so it's a bit of a support skill. So health sacrifice per revive is 30%, and it can revive up to 5 enemies. So that could be really effective if you had a lot, if you're in a dungeon or something, and you know, a couple of your allies were down. That could really have a good effect there. So let's try this out. So let's summon it. Here he is. Always bigger than the other one, so it's a nice big one. So that's cool. So you can see that's going to be regenerating health on us and all our other allies. And then if you've got some, you know, over here we've got some downed allies, going to activate it. Come over here, mate, and that's going to be curing conditions and reviving the allies there at the expense of his own health, but obviously that's kind of the point. And then eventually the spirit will die, and then you'll have to wait for the cooldown, and it will take a little while to come back. Okay, so that's all of the elite skills for the ranger. So the next thing I wanted to do was have a look at the overall profession mechanics. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the unique profession mechanics for the ranger. So if you haven't guessed already, what's unique about the ranger is its ability to have a pet. This is like a little NPC character which goes around with you and fights with you in combat. You're probably pretty familiar with it from other games, but what you probably haven't seen before is the ability to swap between pets in combat. Just like with a weapon set, you can have 2 pets active at any one time, and I'll go into the pet management menu in a second. So you've got this F4 ability here, which allows you to swap between them, and obviously in combat they'll have a small cooldown, but you'll you'll be able to switch between them depending on changing circumstances in battle. So that's pretty cool. Just to look at the rest of your abilities here, your F1 ability is attack my target. So if you have an enemy highlighted and you press F1, then your pet's going to go ahead and attack them, which is pretty standard, and it is good as well. It's just a way of controlling your pets. So you have a little bit more control over them. Your F2 is a special ability which depends on each individual pet, and I'll come back to that in a second once I've gone through the pet management menu. Here obviously you've got F3 is return to me, so that's obviously pretty much the opposite of the attack. So that if you want to stop attacking and come to you, you can press that, and they'll come straight to you. And here you can swap between guard mode, which means they will attack any enemies that attack you, or you can use avoid combat. So quite simply, they will try and stay out of combat as much as possible, which is useful if you're running around, like running for an area, and you don't want the pet to just attack anyone who attacks you, because you're not actually going to engage them in combat. This button here is just to stow the pet away. So, oh no, look, he's gone.
Come here,
and he's back. There you go. So that's just to put it away. If you don't need him, sometimes it can be a bit annoying. Maybe if you're doing something where the pet keeps pulling enemies or something like that, you can put it away. And like we said, the F4 is just a swap from your active pets that you've set. Okay, so what I want to do now is have a look at the pet management menu, which can be accessed by the shortcut K on your keyboard if you wanted to. Alright, so this is where you choose what pets you want active, and also you can change a few other things. So you've got 2 land pets there, and then you have got 2 aquatic ones there. I'm not going to go too much into that, but obviously here you can choose your aquatic pets, so you can choose between 2 separate ones for underwater combat. So here you've got all of the land ones that you can use. So obviously here all of them are unlocked. So these are all the pets that you can have, which is pretty cool. There's a nice variety there, all different types of pets there. You can get them throughout the world. Best to probably look it up on the wiki to see like where you can get each individual pet. You know, when you find out which ones you want. But you know, there's some that are easy to get, and some that are obviously going to be quite a lot more difficult. There's a little thing here for renaming your pet, so that's cool. So you can do that if you want to give your pet like a customized name, which would be nice. And then, so here you can swap between. So I've chosen the juvenile sand lion and the juvenile fire wyvern. So those are 2 pretty cool ones. And when you've got that active pet, so as you swap between them, see their skills will change here. So every single pet has got 4 skills that they can use. 3 of them are defined by the type of thing that they are, like wyvern and stuff. So all wyverns will have these 3 skills here: wing swipe, tail lash, and wing buffet. And then this one here is the unique ability to that specific pet. And every single pet, like for example, if I choose a slightly different wyvern, they stay the same, but it's got a different unique ability here. And that's the one that's triggered by your F2. So that's something that you can do in combat. Obviously have a look at what it does and the cooldown. I'm not going to go through every single one for all the pets because that would take too long, but you know, have a little look, see which ones you like. My fire wyvern's got consuming flame, which is a 35-second cooldown, and is channel an expanding stream of flame from above. When the engulfed region reaches its full size, it becomes a fire field. So that's pretty cool there. And then I've also got the sand lion, which is blinding roar, 35-second cooldown, release a powerful roar that blinds nearby foes. So you know, the pet you choose might be based on, you know, what ability you like best. And obviously you can have a look at what their other abilities do there as well, which is cool. So I'll just give you a quick demonstration then of how this works. So I've got one of my things active. If I press sorry, that's not what I want to press. If I press F1, I can get it to attack certain targets. So I can get that one, no, attack that one. Just clicking on target, pressing F1, and then if I press F3, return to me. Come on, come over here. There you go, stop fighting. And then obviously I'll show my F2, which is a special ability. So if I say F1 gone, attack, and then use your F2, there you go, blinding enemies nearby, and you can see they're doing a decent amount of damage there. Now I can swap.
Come here, old friend.
There you go, so we can swap in combat, and I can say, go on, if you attack this guy here, F1, and then F2, use your special ability. Nice, really cool one that is. You can see that's going to set fire to him and do damage over time, and now he's dead. So as you can see, that's pretty cool. And then like I said, you've got the guard and you've got the avoid combat options there as well, which are awesome. So that's everything for the pet management, I believe, and we've been through all of the other unique things like summoning spirits, laying traps and stuff like that. So obviously you're going to want to have a look at all these different pets, try out their abilities and stuff like that to see which ones suit you. There's a lot of really cool ones there, and then obviously you're going to want to set your underwater ones. Not that there's that much underwater combat, but when you're underwater you want to make sure you know your specific pets. There's some pets that are just underwater, like jellyfish and things like that, and then there's some that are just land, like a moa bird and things like that, and then there's the ones that you can use both, like the bears and stuff like that. They can go underwater and on land, so do bear that in mind. So you can have the same one on land and underwater if you wanted to, but only particular ones. Alright, so I think that's everything for the unique profession mechanics. So the next thing I want to have a look at are the individual core specializations and the traits within them. Okay, so now I want to have a look at the core specializations for the ranger, and then have a look at each individual trait to see how they make you more powerful. So I'm going to start here with marksmanship. So the first passive on this is opening strike. This is you and your pet inflict vulnerability with your first strike when entering combat. So that's a pretty cool one there to buff you and your pet. And so your first choice is stone form. So use lesser signet of stone when struck while below the health threshold. So health threshold is 50%, so whenever you get hit below 50% health, you're going to trigger this signet, which is you and your pet take no damage from attacks. You and your pet are still susceptible to conditions and control effects for 2.5 seconds. So that's actually really powerful, because that's going to make you like almost invincible for 2.5 seconds, you and your pet, every time you take a hit after below 50% health. Bear in mind it has got a 300-second cooldown on that, so it's only going to work every few minutes or so, so that is something to bear in mind. Next one here is Hunter's Gaze. So gain might when you strike a foe based on their health percentage. So as you can see, we're gaining more might the lower their health. So you've got the stats on that there, 75% health, 50% health and 25% health. And your next one here is Clarion Bond. So cast Lesser Call of the Wild when you swap pets. So whenever you're swapping pets, obviously using your F4 button, you're going to get this effect, which is grant Fury, Might and Swiftness to yourself and nearby allies. Your pet's next few attacks become unblockable. So that's pretty cool there, just for swapping pets. So that's just an incentive to swap your pets in combat, so that's nice. So your next passive here is Alpha Focus. So your opening strikes inflict cripple on your foes. So the first one was that you and your pet inflict vulnerability with your first strike, and now it's that you put cripple as well. So this is basically going to mean that the first time you hit your enemies, you're going to be, you know, sticking a couple of different conditions on them. So that's cool. So your next choice here is Brutish Seals. So activating a signet grants Fury to nearby allies. Signets gain reduced recharge. So you've got 25% recharge reduced there, and you're going to be giving Fury to allies when you trigger them. So if you've got, you know, a couple of signets in your build, then you definitely want to take advantage of that trait. You've got Far-Sighted. So ranger weapon skills deal increased damage. Damage is further increased for foes above the range threshold. So damage increase of 5% on your weapon skill set, so that's really cool. Like just generally all your weapon skills 5% more damage, so that's quite powerful. And then damage increase above the threshold, so 10% damage increase if you're above 600 range. So if you're over sort of like mid range, that's going to be doing 10% damage. So that's really cool. So you've got Moment of Clarity. So gain an attack of opportunity for you and your pet on interrupting a foe. Daze and stun durations that you inflict last longer. So obviously there's a lot of daze and stun things as part of the skills we went through. So that's going to make that last longer there. An attack of opportunity there is plus 25% damage on the next attack when you interrupt a foe. So any interrupts, and that's going to help make you more powerful there. So your last passive here is Precise Strike. So opening strike has an increased chance to critically strike. So critical chance increase 100%. So that's going to buff your opening strike, which is awesome. Here you've got Predator's Onslaught. So you and your pet deal increased damage to disabled or movement impaired foes. Okay. And you've got Remorseless. So regain opening strike whenever you gain Fury. Opening strike deals more damage. 25% extra on your opening strike there, and you regain it whenever you gain Fury. And obviously we looked, and there's a couple of things that will be buffing Fury, so that could work quite well. The last one here is Lead the Wind. So your longbow and harpoon gun skills pierce and recharge faster. Striking foes beyond the range threshold grants boons. So anything above the range threshold of 1200, you do have to be quite far away. It's going to start granting boons to you, which is cool. And longbow and harpoon skills pierce and recharge faster. So you know, if you're using a longbow, you're probably going to want to do that because it's going to buff your recharge and stuff like that. And obviously the longbow is generally the only weapon that you're going to be using for more than 1200 range there. So if you do, it's going to give you buffs as well. So that's cool. Alright, so the next specialization we're going to look at is Nature Magic. So your first passive here is Rejuvenation. So gain regeneration when struck while below the health threshold. So whenever you're struck below 50% health, you're going to gain a nice little regen there, which is going to obviously give you healing over a few seconds, which is cool. So here you got Bountiful Hunter. So you deal increased damage for each boon affecting you. Your pet deals increased damage for each boon affecting it. So 1% damage per boon. So if you're putting a lot of boons on yourself, or you're in a group and you're getting a lot of boons put on you, you're going to be increasing the damage there. So that's cool. Here you've got instinctive reaction. So gain quickness when struck while below the health threshold. You and your pet gain healing power based on power. So the health threshold is 50%, so gain quickness when struck below 50%, and you're going to get healing power based on percentage of power, so 7%. So that's pretty cool. Next up, you've got Allies Aid. So cast Search and Rescue when you begin reviving an ally. So whenever you try to revive an ally, you're going to command your pet to seek out and revive a downed ally. So they're going to come and help you, basically, which is going to make reviving easier. Pretty good in a group situation. The next one here, you've got Fortifying Bond. So when you gain a boon, it's shared with your pet. So it's got all the boons there, so whenever you do that, that's going to be passed on to your pet as well, so that's pretty cool there. So, you know, whenever boons get put on you, your pet's going to be getting plenty of boons as well. So just doubling up there. So here you've got Evasive Purity. So dodging removes a damaging condition and a non-damaging condition from you. So there you go, so just by dodging around, you're going to be taking conditions off yourself. Here you've got Spirited Arrival. So grant boons to nearby allies when swapping pets. So there you go, whenever you're swapping between your pets using your F4 ability, you're going to be putting some boons on yourself. Here you've got Windborne Notes. So Warhorn skills gain reduced recharge and grant regeneration around their target. Recover health when you gain regeneration. So if you're using the Warhorn as an offhand in your build, you're probably going to want to choose that, because it's going to make that even better there. And here you've got Lingering Magic. So you and your pet gain increased concentration. So that's just a passive, so you're going to have that at all times. So next one here, Nature's Vengeance. So reduces health loss when spirits apply boons to allies. Spirit activated skills affect a large area and apply boons to allies. So effectively your spirits will last longer because they'll be taking less damage, as it were. Their health will go down less when applying boons, and it's going to make their area of effect even more. So if you're incorporating spirits into your build, then that could be a really cool trait to incorporate as well. So Protective Ward. When you receive damage, nearby foes are weakened and you gain protection. So whenever you do that, so on a radius of 240 around you, that's going to be granting weakness and protection, so that's cool. Then you've got Invigorating Bond. So beast abilities heal allies around the caster. So nice amount of healing there. So basically, you know, this specialization seems to be a lot around, you know, buffing you and your pet. So, you know, if you're using the pet a lot, or spirits and stuff like that, then you're probably going to want to go with that specialization as one of them. So next up is Skirmishing. So first of all, your first passive is Tailwind. So gain swiftness when swapping weapons in combat. So whenever you're using your weapon swap here, you're going to gain a bit of swiftness there, so that's cool. First choice is Sharpened Edges. So you and your pet have a chance to cause bleeding on critical hits. So if you've got a lot of precision in your build because you want to get your crit chance up, this would be pretty cool. So every third critical hit, effectively, you're going to be sticking bleeding on the enemy as well. So if you're critting a lot, that's going to be quite a lot of bleeding stacks, so that's cool. Here you've got Primal Reflexes. When you successfully evade an attack, gain Vigor. So if you're doing a lot of evading, then that's pretty good because it's going to put more buffs on you as well. Here you've got Trapper's Expertise. So increase the duration of boons and conditions applied by traps. Traps gain reduced recharges and offensive ones cause cripple. So as you can see, there's the figures there. So it's quite a big buff there for traps. So if you've got traps on your utility bar and stuff like that, then you're definitely going to want to be having a look at that trait. The next passive here is Furious Grip. So gain fury when swapping weapons in combat. So as you can see, another one there, which is going to give you more buffs when you're swapping in combat. So it's just more incentive to weapon swap and utilise all of your weapon skills. Next up, you've got Spotter. So you increase the precision of nearby allies. So increase precision, 100 precision, interval 3 seconds. So basically all times nearby allies are going to have an extra 100 precision, which is going to make them crit even more, so that's really cool. So Strider's Defense. So evading an attack grants quickness. Sword skills gain reduced recharge. So if you want to use the one-handed sword as part of your build, then this would be a pretty good one because you can get reduced recharge on all those skills, as well as some extra quickness when you evade an attack. So hidden barbs. So bleeding you inflict is more dangerous. So you put a lot of bleeding on the enemies, which you probably do as part of your build, and this is going to make that do an extra 33% damage, so that's cool. And the last passive on this one is Hunter's Tactics. So you deal more damage and have an increased chance to critically strike while attacking from behind or the side. So as we saw when we're going through all the skills, there's quite a lot of things that buff you if you're attacking from the side or behind, so this is just another incentive to do that. So next up you've got Quick Draw. So when swapping weapons, the next ranger weapon skill you use will recharge faster. So your next weapon skill's cooldown is reduced by 66%. So if you're using that, you're going to want to probably straight away when you swap to it, use your your weapon ability with the highest cooldown, because it's based on the percentage there. So the bigger the cooldown, the bigger the recharge reduction you're going to get there. So next up is Light on Your Feet. Damage and condition duration are increased after dodging or using quick shot. Short bow skills pierce and gain recharge reduction, and their attacks from behind or while flanking are improved. So if you're using the short bow as part of your build, then you're definitely going to want to go with this, because it's going to increase your recharge as well as buffing it even more when you're attacking from the side or behind, which the short bow does focus on quite a lot anyway. And then last up here you've got Vicious Quarry. So Fury grants ferocity and additional increased critical strike chance. So when struck while below the health threshold, gain Fury. So if you've got a lot of Fury in your build, you're also going to get ferocity, which is increased critical strike damage, and it's going to give you critical strike chance as well there, it says. And so when you're struck below 75% health, you're going to gain Fury as well. So that sort of links in with each other and stacks those boons on top of you, so that's really cool. Okay, so the next one is Beast Mastery. So this sounds like it's going to be quite pet focused, so let's have a look. So straight up you've got your pets, so you've got Pack Alpha, so your pet's attributes are improved and pet skills gain recharge reduction. So as you can see, attribute increase, so that's just going to make your pet just more powerful just as a basic thing. So that's really cool, and their pet skill recharge is 20% quicker. So if you're doing a lot of pet focused stuff, you're definitely going to want to go with this one as one of your specializations. First one here, go for the eyes. So nearby foes are blinded by beast abilities. So whenever you use your F2 beast abilities and everything, then you can put blindness on the enemies within a 240 radius as well. So that's really cool. You've got Potent Ally. So you and your pet each grant might to the other when critically striking a foe. So once again, if you've got a lot of critical strike going on, a lot of precision and stuff, then that's going to be cool, because you and your pet can be giving each other might at the same time. So it's going to up your damage even more. And here you've got Resounding Timber. So commands apply additional boons around you and gain reduced recharge. So if you've got quite a few commands on your bar, which is a certain type of skill, then this will be good, because it's going to gain extra buffs and give you a recharge reduction on those as well. Next passive is Loud Whistle. So while your health is above the threshold, your pet deals more damage. Your pet swap gain recharge reduction. So as long as your health is above 90%, so maybe not that much at a time, your pet's going to deal more damage, so 10% extra damage. Your pet swap gains recharge reduction of 20%, so that's just a passive buff there, just for having this on your bar. Next up you've got Wilting Strike. So beast abilities inflicts weakness on those struck. So any beast abilities are going to be having an extra effect there, so that's cool. Two-handed training. So great sword and spear skills deal more damage and recharge faster. Gain Fury when you disable a foe. So if you're using the great sword as part of your build, then you're definitely going to want to incorporate that, because it's just going to buff that even more. Here you've got Natural Healing. So your pet recovers health each interval. So every 3 seconds you're going to get a 375 heal on your pet. So that's pretty cool. Helps them keep alive, just makes them a little bit more tanky. So Pet's Prowess. So your pet moves faster and deals more damage on critical hits. So just a general movement speed increase of 30% on your pet, and an extra 300 ferocity on them as well. So that's cool. And here you've got Beastly Warden. So beast abilities taunt nearby foes. So this is going to be when beast abilities are used, it's going to get the enemy to attack the pet. So it just helps them tank more and keep the aggro off you, which is cool. And next up you've got Zephyr's Speed. So cast Lesser Quickening Zephyr when you swap pets. So whenever you swap in pets using your F4, you're going to cast you and your pet gain quickness and super speed. So a couple little buffs there for you and your pet whenever you swap them in combat. So that's cool. And your last one here is honed axes. So you and your pet gain ferocity. Axe skills gain reduced recharge and you gain additional ferocity while wielding an axe. So this is a must-have in your build if you're using axes, and obviously you can have a main hand and offhand axe, so that's going to make that even better there if you have double axes. Alright, and the final specialization is wilderness survival. So the first passive on this is natural vigor. So you recover endurance more quickly. So 25% increased endurance recovery there, so you can be able to dodge around a lot quicker, which is cool. First one here, you've got Child of Earth. So create muddy terrain when you use a healing skill. And muddy terrain is basically going to cripple, slow and immobilize foes in a radius around you. Oak Heart Salve. So gain regeneration when you are inflicted with bleeding, poison or burning. While you have regeneration, you take reduced damage. So whenever you get those conditions put on you, you're going to gain regen, and then also to double up, whenever you get regen, you'll get damage reduction as well. So that's almost like a toughness buff at the same time, so that's cool. Next up, you've got Taste for Danger. So gain increased vitality. You and your pet gain expertise based on vitality. So this is going to give you a little bit more base health, and it's going to give expertise to you and your pet as well based on that. So here you've got Companion's Defense. So you and your pet gain protection when you dodge roll. So whenever you're using a dodge roll in combat, you're going to gain a couple of seconds of minus a third incoming damage, so that's cool. Ambidexterity. So gain condition damage. Gain additional condition damage while wielding a torch or dagger. Torch and dagger skills recharge faster. So once again, you know, if you've got the torch or the dagger in your build, you're going to want to consider that, because it's going to make that even better. So next is Refined Toxins. So while you're above the health threshold, your strikes inflict poison. While your pet's health is above the health threshold, its strikes inflict poison. So health threshold is 75%, you and your pet are going to be dealing extra damage there by putting poison effects on the enemy. This one, Shared Anguish. So incoming disables are transferred to your pet instead. So if people try to disable you, it's going to go to your pet instead, but it does have a 300-second cooldown, so that's 5 minutes, so bear that in mind. Your last passive here is Rugged Growth. So you and your pet recover health while affected by protection. So obviously we've had other things on here which buff you with protection. But when you have protection, you're gonna get you're gonna recover some health as well. So basically get some health regeneration. Next is Emphatic Bond. So condition durations are split between you and your pet. So personal condition duration 80%, pet condition duration 20% there. That's pretty cool there. And you've got Wilderness Knowledge. So survival skills gain reduced recharge, grant fury and remove conditions. So if you're using a lot of survival skills, then that's going to help with that as well. And lastly, we have Poison Master. So upon using a beast ability, your pet's next attack will inflict poison. Your poison damage is increased. So that's just going to buff the beast abilities even more and put extra poison and do a bit of extra damage on the enemy as well. Okay, so that is all 5 of the core specializations and all of the individual traits. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw a quick ranger build together and do a combat demonstration for you guys. Okay, so I've thrown together a quick ranger build. I've got the longbow as one of my weapons, and my other one I've got dual axes. I've got the juvenile fire wyvern here, and as my other pet I've got the juvenile sand lion. And then I've got a nice variety of skills along here, a trap, a spirit, a command skill and stuff like that. So let's give this a go now and see how we get on.
such might. We heal as one. I chose you. Kill him.
Alright, okay, so that's just showing off a few of the Ranger's basic skills there. So obviously you're going to want to try out all the things we looked at today and just see how you get on and what weapons and skills you prefer and what pets look good to you. So that pretty much covers everything for the Ranger. If you have any more questions about it, then just leave it in the comments below. If you want to watch one of these class guides on any of the other classes or the elite specializations, then check out my playlist, because I've done one for almost all of them now and I'm making my way through. So I'll be done with that very soon. And if you want to watch a video that goes through all of the classes and all of the elite specializations in one video, just with a short overview of each of them, then I've got that as well, so check that out. Alright, so thanks for watching guys, like and subscribe to be kept up to date, and I'll see you later.